Some places are not waiting for the future to flood them. They are already sinking. The ground is dropping beneath homes, roads, churches, airports, and entire capitals. In some places, the ocean is rising. In others, the land itself is collapsing. And in the worst cases, both are happening at the same time. Today, we're counting down the top 9 places that are sinking into the sea. Stay until number 1. Because the final city is so fragile that engineers built giant steel barriers just to keep history above water. Before we begin, tell us in the comments which place you think is most at risk. Number 9. Houston, Texas. Houston does not look like a city that is sinking. That is what makes it dangerous. But beneath parts of the city, the ground has been slowly dropping for decades. Roads settle. Drainage patterns shift. Floodwater moves into places where old maps never expected it to go. Then a storm arrives, and the hidden sinking becomes visible all at once. Houston sits above the Gulf Coast Aquifer, a massive underground water system pumped for more than a century to supply homes and industry. When groundwater is removed, the clay and sand layers above it compact. In the worst areas, the ground has dropped by more than 3 meters. That is not just a scientific measurement. That is an entire urban landscape sitting lower than it used to. During Hurricane Harvey in 2017, Houston received around 60 inches of rain. The city's elevation no longer matched reality. Over 135,000 homes were damaged. Subsidence is quiet danger until the water is already at the door. But Houston is only one city. Next, a city built inside a bowl. Number 8. New Orleans. This city does not simply sit near water in many places, it sits below it. Surrounded by levees and pumping stations, parts of the city are 15 feet below sea level. Without constant mechanical effort, the city would be returned to the water. Built on a delta, New Orleans was once renewed by natural floods. Now the levees block that process, causing the land to compact and sink. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina showed how thin that margin really was. Storm surge breached the levees in 50 places, flooding 80% of the city overnight. Number 7. Jakarta, Indonesia. This city is not just sinking, it is sinking so seriously that Indonesia is moving its entire capital. In northern Jakarta, streets once safe are now behind levees. When those pumps stop, the water does not ask permission, it comes back. Jakarta is the fastest sinking major city on Earth. At its worst, parts were dropping by 25 centimeters a year, nearly an inch every single month. The cause is groundwater extraction. As thousands of private wells drained the aquifer, the clay beneath compressed and the land dropped. Now, about 40% of Jakarta sits below sea level. That is not a future scenario. That is the present condition of a global megacity. In 2019, Indonesia announced plans to build Nusantara on the island of Borneo. A country is relocating its seat of government. Number 6. Bangkok, Thailand. This city is not just vulnerable to flooding, it is sinking faster than the sea, beside it is rising. The city stretches across the soft clay of the river delta. During heavy rain, streets become rivers and traffic stops. Underneath, the ground is slowly giving way. Parts of Bangkok sink by up to 4 centimeters per year. That means the city is racing downward much faster than the water is rising upward. The cause is groundwater extraction. As the population exploded from 1 million to over 10 million, industrial pumping pulled water from the aquifer. Since then, Bangkok has experimented with creative solutions like the Centenary Park, designed to absorb and hold 1 million gallons of rainwater. It is both beautiful and unsettling. A park built because the city needs to behave like a sponge. Next, a place where farmland becomes the sea. Number 5. Manila and Manila Bay, Philippines. In parts of the Philippines, people did not move closer to the water. The water moved into their lives. South of Manila Bay, former farmland is now shallow water. Churches and cemeteries stand permanently submerged, surrounded by water that wasn't there decades ago. The area sinks by up to 10 centimeters a year. The causes include heavy groundwater extraction and dense construction on soft, vulnerable soil. Subsidence rewrites identity. In some areas, former farmers have become fishermen not by choice, but because their fields are now underwater. People adapt one step at a time, raising floors and building platforms until adaptation is no longer enough. And then they leave. Number 4, Mexico City, Mexico. This city is not sinking into the ocean. It is sinking into the memory of a lake. Imagine a city of 20 million people on soft ground that behaves like a collapsing sponge. Buildings lean and sidewalks buckle as the land settles. Built on a drained lakebed, the ground is water-saturated clay. As the city extracts groundwater, the clay compresses and sinks. In some parts, the ground sinks by as much as 50 centimeters a year. Neighborhoods visibly change elevation within a single lifetime. The Angel of Independence stood at street level in 1910. Today, you must descend over 20 steps to reach it because the city dropped around it. The city is trapped between the need to drink and the need to stop sinking. It is a struggle for survival against its own foundation. Number 3, the Netherlands. Much of it is already below sea level, surviving by fighting water for 800 years. From above, it looks carefully drawn, flat fields, canals, and dikes. But this beauty is defensive. Every barrier keeps the sea from taking back what humans claimed. After the catastrophic 1953 flood, the country built the Delta Works, a massive system of dams and storm surge barriers considered an engineering masterpiece. The barrier protecting Rotterdam includes steel gates the size of the Eiffel Tower. They swing closed when danger threatens, then open when the sea calms. The Dutch say, God created the world, but the Dutch created the Netherlands. It is a nation reclaimed and defended by human effort. But the victory is not permanent. If the pumps stop, the sea would return in days. Next, a nation with nowhere to rise. Number 2, Tuvalu. This nation is not just sinking, it is preparing for the possibility of becoming a country without land. Thin strips of land surrounded by an ocean so blue it hides the danger. Homes sit only slightly above the waterline. There is no mountain to climb, only the sea. In 2023, Tuvalu signed a treaty with Australia to offer residency to citizens displaced by climate change, a sovereign nation making plans to live elsewhere. The government is creating a digital twin, a virtual preservation of its islands and culture, a nation making a backup copy because the physical version may not survive. The water does not care who caused the problem, it only rises. Next, the final city, the most beautiful and most threatened of them all. Number 1 is Venice, a city so beautiful that every flood feels like history itself is drowning. Built on mud, Venice dropped while the Adriatic rose. St. Mark's Square, the city's lowest point, now floods over 200 times a year. Italy's answer is MOSE, giant steel barriers that rise from the seabed to hold back the sea. It buys time, but the lagoon still needs to breathe. Venice is a living museum, a maze of art and memory. Losing it would be losing a place that helped shape world culture. Venice is not eternal. It is defended. It asks the world how much history we are willing to fight for. From Houston to Venice, the water is rising. Which place shocked you most? Subscribe for more cinematic rankings of our changing Earth.